President Donald Trump has been officially sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. And he has started off by immediately raging. In one of his last acts of power, former President Joe Biden basically did a slew of preemptive presidential pardons, which have really gotten the new president's goat. Now, funny enough, for Biden, he had promised back in 2020, we will not do preemptive pardons. What changed? Well, likely back then, he probably believed that Americans would not have considered re-electing a clown who allegedly led an insurrection. And I say allegedly because it never went to court, because Trump did not allow it to get to court, so we couldn't adjudicate it. So now, that said, Americans did, for some weird reason, price of eggs or something, and so Biden felt like he had to ensure that Trump did not intend to take out his ire on his political enemies, because you can't go after Biden because Biden's got immunity. So, can't really go after Joe Biden, can't really go after Hunter Biden because he's already been pardoned. So, who do I go after? Who do I attack? Who do I distract the country, with a witch hunt trial while we rob them? Because that's the plan. Now, apparently, for a while, it was Fauci. We're going to go after Fauci. We're going to go after Liz Cheney. We're going to go after all the January 6th, committee people, the unselect committee. Well, turns out he's not going to be able to do that. Biden's pardons issued on Monday covered former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Anthony Fauci, retired General Mark Milley, as well as members and witnesses to the Congressional Select Committee that investigated the January 6th Capitol riots. So,
whoopsie.
Can't go after anybody. Can't go after those people. The people that Trump had promised to go after while he was campaigning. Okay, so it's not like we didn't get any warning ahead of time. Those people are now protected, as well as members of Biden's family, and we'll get to that. This, of course, is ruining Trump's special day. All right. In a text to NBC News' Kristen Welker, during the inauguration party, the president wrote, "It is disgraceful. Many are guilty of major crimes." Which crimes? Do we have it? Do we have a list of what alleged crimes these people had committed? And that you were going to investigate? No, nothing. The only crime here is that a lot of these people either tried to hold Trump accountable, okay, or they had once criticized him. Now, in a statement, President Biden said he wanted to protect those named from baseless and politically motivated investigations. And of course, he would know because he was the subject of a failed impeachment probe, okay, into him and his family members by James Comer that actually didn't shockingly didn't find anything, but not shockingly because seriously, okay. Now, the thing is, we could all see these potential witch hunts coming. Okay, again, Joe Biden could see it, so it makes sense, right? He added, the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Now, to be fair, like Hunter Biden, who was pardoned, he actually did do something wrong. It's just something that generally doesn't get punished. Okay, usually there's some sort of plea deal involved, and that's lying on a form for a gun, which you would think Republicans would be like, no, guns for everybody. No, you shouldn't have to apply to guns anyway, except for this guy. Okay, sure. And lying and saying that he's not on drugs. Okay, but anyway, getting back to Biden's statement, he said, "Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country." Look, here's the thing for them. This is kind of the least he could do. Like, seriously, anybody who doesn't think that these people were in the crosshairs of the Trump administration, you got no business commenting on politics, because you know that he was going to go after them, if anything, for the distraction that it would cause. But anyway, that brings me to Don Jr., who took to Twitter to say this. He doesn't, speaking of Fauci, he doesn't have to accept the pardon. If he did nothing wrong, be a man and turn it down. But you know he won't, because everyone thinks he's guilty of so much. Guilty of what? What's the crime here? What, like, helping to save millions of Americans from dying from COVID? I mean, like, remember, 1.2 million Americans died as a result of getting COVID. Most of those happened during, before the time there was a vaccine, okay? Before the vaccine. This was during the Trump administration, okay? And so, you know, what did he do exactly? Oh, he told people to wear a mask. Oh my God. Oh, wow. Jeez. I swear these people are just so aggrieved by slight inconveniences. I have to put a mask on my face to go out to Applebee's. Oh, man. Let's just base my entire political ideology on the fact that at one time I was inconvenienced for a while. Babies. But anyway, now speaking of Fauci, he thanked Biden for the pardon, but said, hey, look, I didn't commit any crime, but I appreciate you thinking of me, right? And extending this. Another person who said the same thing was Senator Mark Milley. He responded with appreciation, saying that he does not wish to spend his remaining years fighting politically charged legal battles. My family and I are deeply grateful for the president's action today. 43 years of faithful service in uniform to our nation, protecting and defending the Constitution. I do not wish to spend whatever remaining time the Lord grants me fighting those who unjustly might seek retribution for perceived slights. Those perceived slights were like calling Trump a fascist. Oh no, my free speech. Like, you're going to go after somebody for having an opinion? Apparently. So much for free speech, right? Now, getting to Biden's family members, and this is a bit more controversial, right? So he gave pardons for 5 members of his family. James Biden, his brother, he is accused of making false statements to Congress during the Comer BS impeachment probe. Okay. Sarah Jones Biden, his sister-in-law. Valerie Biden owns his younger sister. John T. Owens, his brother-in-law. And Francis W. Biden, his brother. So, look, I'm just going to say that using the pardon power in this way for preemptive pardons is controversial, to say the least. All right? And we already thought the Hunter Biden pardon was controversial. No, this is a bit more. That said, what are you going to do to Biden? He's got immunity for official acts. So he's got immunity, so he's using it. Okay, well, thank you, Supreme Court. So there you go. But of course, the issue here is not just for Biden. It's how's this going to be used in the future? The danger here is that Joe Biden opened the door to a president using pardons in this way, which has been largely untested. You know, preemptive pardons. So, of course, with everything, when Biden opens that door, what do you think Trump's going to do? He's going to run right through it. Expect him to use preemptive pardons for everybody. You know, hey, if you haven't done a crime yet, because it's preemptive, right? But you plan on doing a crime, well, that's okay. We'll just preemptively pardon you so then you can do whatever you want. I can see it happening. So, that said, Biden, on his last day, was basically, and you know, we're in unprecedented times now. So he got handed the dilemma of damned if you do, right? Because, oh, look, hypocrisy, 2020, you said no preemptive pardons, and look at you pardoning people who haven't done crimes, blah, blah, blah. Damned if you do, but damned if you don't, because it was very, very likely that Trump was going to go after these people as sort of a vendetta / distraction. And so, either way, Biden hard choices. And I think he made the only one that, for him, seemed logical. Everyone's favorite lumpy pillow salesman is back with more election conspiracies, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform.
I want to talk to Mike Lindell.
I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote.
No, they're not lumpy pillows.
Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Just forget about the evidence.
You're an asshole.
This was attacked.
Asshole.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell was in Washington this Sunday, no doubt getting ready for President Donald Trump's inauguration, 47th president of the United States. Now, despite the GOP winning the presidency and both chambers of Congress, Lindell is convinced that there was voter fraud.
And there was so many down tickets that were taken. There was 4 senators stole, about 9 congressmen, judges across the country. You know, everyone says, look over here because he was too big to rig. Look over here, and what's going on? You know, Donald Trump won, but we will not forget about all the other tickets down there. And I told them that, and then I thanked them.
They stole the senators. Really? Stole the senators? Was it the House seats and the judges? The Democrats, they just took the senators. They just walked right out. They stole them. My evidence? Just trust me, bro. I need this. I need this so bad. I need this to remain relevant, okay? Even though Donald Trump, the GOP, they got everything they wanted, I still have to sell this because I'm so broke. What's wrong? What's wrong, Mike? Are you not selling enough crosses? I kid you not. Last week, the lumpy pillow pusher expanded into selling crosses. The My Cross necklace. Now you can get a replica of the cross that Mike Lindell wears for only $249.98. Bro, this probably costs like $2 to make. Okay. What are you doing? Oh, and of course, if you have a promo code, then you know, 30% off, right? It's still $250. It's over $150 if you use a stupid code. What is wrong with you people if you're buying this? Look, in an interview with The Independent, Lindell said that he began selling the necklaces because, you know, the attendees at the speeches that he delivered would ask about it. Okay. Now, instead of doing the, you know, Christian thing and deciding to give them away, I know, perish the thought, right? He decided, no, I'm going to make some money off this, okay? Because that's what Jesus would do. No, that's not what Jesus would do. Though, to be fair, Jesus does not owe DHL over, you know, almost $800,000 in unpaid bills, okay? On top of that, by the way, Lindell's money troubles persist, okay? A judge recently told Lindell that he needed to pay Smartmatic more than $56,000 in sanctions for his since dismissed countersuit against the company, adding that his complaint, quote, fell on the frivolous side of the line. No kidding. Wow. Didn't see that one coming. Look, aside from the, I guess, monetary advantage of selling to the rubes by grifting off election denial, Mike Pillow actually also proves the MAGA sore winner theory. Yes, that's right. You see, these people, I've noticed when they win, they don't act like they win. You know, they can't seem to handle it. They don't know what to do when they actually win because their entire personality at this point is just you know, all based off of grievance. Like, oh, look at what they did to us. They stole everything from us. Bro, you guys won. Like, you run the country now. They stole everything from us. You don't understand. They're so powerful. You're powerful. Your side has everything. They have to keep bitching and coming up with like more and more insane conspiracy theories to continue to push the grievance politics. Okay, look, here's the thing: the Democrats had an "I win" button. You think that this election would be one of the times where they would actually use it, but they don't have one, so they don't. Obviously, that's not to say the Democrats have never put their thumbs on scales in elections in perfectly legal ways, by the way, unethical ways, but legal ways. I mean, and for this, I go back to the primaries. Okay, the Democratic primaries are, I wouldn't say rigged, right? But oh boy, there's some there's some definite thumb on the scale moments that we've had. Okay, look, Jamal Bowman, for example, Cory Bush, Bernie Sanders. Okay, a lot of that, those losses for the progressive movement by the centrists had a lot to do with money and messaging. Right-wing billionaires pumping money into these, pro-Israel groups like AIPAC, Democratic Majority for Israel, okay, to do like ads that would literally darken the skin of Cory Bush, okay, just like the grossest kinds of ads that aren't about Israel at all. In a lot of cases, for example, against Nina Turner, they actually said, "Oh, she's against healthcare." She campaigned with Bernie Sanders and supports Medicare for all. What are you talking about? But again, they straight up lie. All right, and they have such a massive megaphone. That's some of the examples here of how the Democratic Party does, has their own "I win" button, at least when it comes to primary elections. Okay, the progressive candidates always get destroyed, almost always get destroyed by a flood of, corporate and donor money, AIPAC money, etc. So when it comes to elections, the biggest "I win" button they have is the corporate lobbyists and the pro-Israeli groups, backed by Republican billionaires that just flood these local elections with so much propaganda and so much money. Big shocker then, that when they go up against actual Republicans, the ones who are funding these groups, the Democratic Party does not do so well. And it's because they run away from anything that's remotely economically progressive. So there you go. If you actually want to start beating Republicans, well, they need to kick out the big money and start doing economic populism. Zoomers rejoice, for TikTok hath returned. After going dark for like a day, the short-form video program is now back online. This is after President Donald Trump had promised to save it, which is quite a shift from his position 4 years ago, which, when he first floated the idea of banning it because of the evil Chinese people, China. Remember that? Both Republicans and Democrats, by the way, glommed onto that and it's like, yes, national security, national security. They fear-mongered about China taking user data, despite the fact that is something that American companies have been doing the entire time, like hoovering up our personal data and then selling it to third-party brokers. Apparently, selling it to corporations is good, but the Chinese government possibly, maybe in the future, could maybe have some of our information, personal information. That is a national security interest. We are going to prevent Bob from down the street from having China be able to influence him by knowing what kind of, chocolate he likes or something. I don't know. But I do know Facebook has already been using our data and selling it. So I don't know. I don't see much of a difference here. Nonetheless, Republicans and Democrats got together and passed a bipartisan law on this, based on this, and President Joe Biden signed it. So Biden did Trump's work for him. And then, of course, Trump came back and was like, I'm going to be the hero who saves TikTok. Even though me and the Republican Party, people like Charlie Kirk are like, we must ban TikTok. This is such a dumb series of events that I feel like could have been avoided. Now, that said, I don't think this is some 5D chess move on behalf of Donald Trump, okay? No, he's not that smart. What happened is that Democrats and Republicans got together to do something very stupid in the name of national security, and because they don't know how the internet works, they don't know how any of this stuff works, and apparently also don't know how free speech works, okay? And, well, they did that, and now Trump has the opportunity to get Gen Z on his side, and of course, he's not going to waste it. That would be stupid, right? Even if it means flouting a law that his own Supreme Court upheld, which was the TikTok ban. Now, that said, the law only says that he can delay the ban for a certain amount of time, and only about 90 days, only if TikTok can show that they're actively in a deal to sell their platform, to divest, okay? But that is currently not the case. TikTok's like, we ain't selling. We ain't selling. We're still not selling. So then what's the basis for this, for allowing TikTok to come back based on the law? Well, there is none. Okay, there is none. In fact, there's Republicans that have pointed out, we're not going to give an extension. The Senators Tom Cotton of Arkansas and Pete Ricketts of Nebraska, they put out a joint statement saying, now that the law has taken effect, there's no legal basis for any kind of extension of its effective date. For TikTok to come back online in the future, ByteDance must agree to a sale that satisfies the law's qualified divestiture requirements by severing all ties between TikTok and communist China. Only then will Americans be protected from the grave threat posed to their privacy and security by a communist-controlled TikTok. I still have no idea what that grave threat is. Nobody can point out what actual threat this has on the American people. All I hear is, ooh, scary Chinese communism. Oh my God. Oh, no, save me from the pink-haired communists.
Pink-haired communist.
What? Understand that that's why Republicans signed this ban, right? Because it's scary communists, you know. Oh, they're affecting our youth with the communisms. Really? Are they? Now, I do know why Democrats signed this ban. And it's because too many on TikTok were getting their news, right? And a lot of that news was exposing how the right wing in Israel was blocking like ceasefire offers from Hamas, right? That would have guaranteed the return of hostages safely, and how the right-wing government of Israel was choosing instead to bomb hospitals and schools and do ethnic cleansing. Which, of course, embarrassed the Democratic Party because Joe Biden was 100% behind sending Benjamin Netanyahu unlimited amounts of money and weapons. Now, Netanyahu needed to stay in power to avoid going to prison for corruption. And so he made a deal with the Israeli far right to basically try to do everything they can to prolong that conflict. Now, of course, so far, there's a new ceasefire deal. And hostages have been released. So Hamas is holding up their end of the bargain. I just wonder when the right-wing Israeli government is going to break their part of the agreement. So we'll see what happens, and then we'll see how Trump responds to it. But anyway, the whole point, banning TikTok, because how dare Americans know the truth about our horrific foreign policy goals? Okay? And not that Trump will do any better, of course. Look, what the Israeli government wanted was to clear out Gaza, make it unlivable so they could annex it. And of course, Trump and Kushner have talked about, basically turning that into a resort area, building Trump hotels and condos there. So, yeah, when it comes down to it, both pretty horrible and has absolutely nothing to do with divesting from Chinese Communist Party. Okay. Now, that said, flouting this law, that's what Trump's doing, right? I don't think he cares if he flouts this law. And why would he? He's got presidential immunity. Who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him? You think anybody's going to stop him? Dude pulled off an insurrection back on, January 6th, 2021. Seriously? Nobody held him accountable for anything. So why wouldn't he just do whatever he wants? At least that's how he's going to see it. And by the way, he's got the support of another tech company that he feels is beholden to him. And again, he could say, I saved you, TikTok. I allowed you to keep running in the United States. They already put out messages giving him credit for saving TikTok. Here's one. To the users, thanks for your patience and support as a result of President Trump's efforts. TikTok is back in the U.S. Yeah. And there was another message. We thank President Trump for providing the necessary clarity and assurance to our service providers, okay, who would have been fined very heavily, okay, if they allowed TikTok to continue, that they will face no penalties providing TikTok. We will work with President Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States. So that was released on Sunday. So, I mean, there you go. It's back for now. That said, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of users that are not exactly thrilled with the implications of this. Because, look, the divestiture requirements are still in the law. It's technically law, whether Trump ignores it or not. Okay? And there are Republicans that are apparently going to continue to push for that divestiture, as I said before. And so you either are going to have some billionaire that's going to buy it and start doing right-wing propaganda, of course, or the platform itself starts doing right-wing propaganda, pro-Trump content, in order to stay on Trump's good side because he saved the companies. Because now they feel that they owe Donald Trump. Either way, not good. This was an unforced error that the Democrats and President Biden set up for Trump that is absolutely going to benefit Trump. Way to go, guys. Really nailing it. Oklahoma's Superintendent Ryan Walters had catapulted into the national spotlight by fighting the culture wars. He's going to fight against the woke, the left-wing indoctrination of our students, which is basically, teaching kids basic facts and to, respect each other. Oh my God, what horrible. Ooh, scary. But it appears that Walters himself has not exactly benefited from doing this. And not only that, but neither have the students. Turns out Oklahoma's education not doing very well. And then now you've got people in his state that are starting to sour on Mr. Walters. This is according to an editorial published by the Oklahoman, where columnist William Wirtz writes that Oklahomans begin to realize, in the words of Gertrude Stein, there wasn't much there when it came to the claims of liberal indoctrination in schools. Yeah, no kidding. Of course, right? In fact, he writes, only a scattering of books that parents wouldn't have wanted their children to see were ever actually found. Teachers and school superintendents spoke up to defend the process by which books were chosen and the right of local schools to make that decision. The Oklahoma Supreme Court later ruled that the law was on their side. Nevertheless, Walters doubled down by doing things like, for example, supporting a state-funded Catholic charter school, which I'm pretty sure is, not supported by the First Amendment, defending an anti-trans bathroom ban because, of course, and other things that didn't address actual real problems, like terrible test scores coming out of his schools. The things that matter. Wirtz writes, some began to wonder whether Walters' actions were aimed at improving Oklahoma schools. Well, they're not. Or winning a spot in the cabinet of presidential candidate Donald Trump, maybe even becoming his education secretary, which he didn't. That went to Linda McMahon. because Linda McMahon, wife of the wrestling guy, WWE owner, former, knows everything about running the nation's education system. More like running it into the ground, but, oh, well, that makes more sense then. But anyway, using his state expense account, getting back to Walters, he hired a public relations firm to help get bookings on conservative TV programs. Yes, this was all about helping Ryan Walters get to be more well-known so that Ryan Walters gets more, cred in the conservative sphere, and gets more opportunities to help Ryan Walters fatten his bank account. But now it seems that the political winds may have shifted, and that maybe the boat of public approval has sailed in a different direction without Walters on board, Wirtz writes. What do you mean? Wait, what? Now, look, despite his efforts, Walters hasn't been elevated at all. And just like that, the conversation then turned from, it's too woke in the schools, right? To, you know what we need to do? We need to make education better because Americans, and this is according to both Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Americans are too stupid to do tech jobs. No, that's not true. Americans just don't want to work 60, 70 hours a week at very minimal, as minimal amount of pay as that they're willing to offer, okay? And then not allow these tech billionaires to basically control their lives, which they could do to H-1B visa holders. And so that's what that whole argument's about. So that said, Oklahoma clearly is not doing their kids justice. Okay, they've got really, really low test scores. Their education system is an absolute disaster. And of course, what did they try to do about it? Walters, he tried to ban books and ban books and ban trans people and do all the culture war nonsense, which has absolutely nothing to do with education. Wirtz also points out that in his 2022 campaign, Walters had mentioned having more accountability and transparency. But that was before. As superintendent, he had changed the school's grading process, something akin to moving the goalposts to make the game easier, and threatened to fire any employee of the education department who shared information with the media. The guy literally is like, oh crap, our grades are terrible. I know. Let's grade in a curve so that my schools don't look that bad. Literally grading on a curve. Oh, that's a disaster. Here's the thing, though. How do you expect your students to learn if you're not allowing teachers to actually teach facts? I mean, when you're out there passing edicts that not only curtail, teachers unions, fight against getting good paid teachers, because let's face it, we do not pay teachers enough in this country to do what they do. Okay, not giving them enough resources to actually do what they need to do, and then telling them that they'll be fired for, like, if they accidentally use pronouns or something. What did you expect from education if you're not actually spending the money wisely? Okay, Wirtz writes that state legislators campaigning in the 2024 election reported a wide range of voters concerned with the fact that higher state spending on education wasn't moving the needle. Because it's how they spend the money that matters. It's how they spend the money. You actually have to foster an environment of learning and opening people's minds. But you can't open children's minds if all of your stuff comes from the most closed-minded of people. Okay? It just doesn't make any sense. Oklahoma has remained stubbornly stuck near the bottom of state educational performance rankings, said Wirtz. The article also notes, quotes a Republican state representative, John King, who said recently that, quote, when I see how few of our students are performing at grade level, that's an alarm. It's a blaring alarm. And we need to focus on that. Yeah. I mean, you guys did that, though. You built that. You created this. But not only is there are the politicians obviously speaking out and saying, "Wow, this has been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster," but also regular people. One poll conducted by the Oklahoman, readers were asked to help Walters decide what to do after failing to win an appointment to Trump's cabinet. 97% picked an alternative. Get real. Forget the cultural stuff and launch a major campaign to help public schools in their efforts to improve math and reading scores and be prepared to succeed in life. A later poll was asked to give Walters a grade for his performance in 2024, to which thousands had responded. About 95% gave him an F. Oof. Fail. Many commented on his failure to focus on real improvement in students' math and reading scores, and frustration with his failure to celebrate the accomplishments of teachers and local districts and share widely their lessons for improvement. I have to say that this is kind of what happens when you elect a culture warrior to, lead the schools instead of someone who actually wants to make, education better, because there absolutely are ways to improve education. Okay. And a lot of it does start with the teachers and being able to support your teachers so that they can better educate the students. You kind of start there and seeing what works for teachers and what works for students and what helps not just their test scores, but helps them actually retain the information that they're being taught and helps them be able to critically think and apply these things to real world scenarios that they'll actually need. But no, can't do that. No. Instead, culture warrior. That's the only thing that Walters knows how to do other than own the libs. And that's really what it is. Educate students. How does that increase reading and math scores? How does that help me own the libs and raise my profile? No, it doesn't. But here's the thing. We've seen this all across the country. Okay? The anti-woke people being thrown out of office. But Jeff, didn't Donald Trump just win? Didn't the Republican Party just completely crush Kamala Harris and the Democrats in this national election? Yes, they did, actually. But you know what? It was based on economic issues. The price of eggs, the price of gas, inflation, the vast majority of people did not vote for Trump because they were impacted by woke. Okay? No. But what about the trans stuff? Kamala Harris barely defended trans people. And the Democratic Party, after the election, after they lost, went in on blaming trans people for their loss instead of doing some reflection on maybe we should have done more economic populism. They focused on the consultants and the donors, okay, their suggestions, which led Kamala Harris campaigning not with Sean Fain of the UAW, but with Liz Cheney. And of course, they ignored big, bold, progressive economic ideas. Because of course they did. They ignored the fact that, hey, the American people actually want us to, want the government to help to guarantee people health care and to take on big corporations to make the rich pay their fair share. That's it. It's economic issues. People do not think government is doing enough to help them. And they're not. It's true. Instead, what the government is doing is fighting too much against the woke. Well, fighting against woke isn't going to help you afford your rent. Okay? It's going to help the people afford the rent. It's not going to help them afford groceries. It's not going to help your kid get a good education. And people know that. And yet you have politicians like Ryan Walters who were elevated on their promises to fight against the woke. And well, turns out these people, one-trick ponies, when you give them actual power, they don't really use it to do anything good. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.